Alright guys, so today I finally finished painting my Nurgle Titan. So this is what it looks like right now. I started painting it a while ago. I've had this for way too long. So this is me kind of finishing it off. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and I'll let you take it from here. Paint, paint, paint. So we're just going to be using Hard Coat Black just to get all the parts that I have not already painted all nice and black. And I'm going to be applying 2 thin coats as well. So now here I'm creating a wash for the clay bits I made, the skin, the rot. So what I did is I took 50% of Vallejo's dry rust effect and 50% of Bale Tan Green, the wash, and added a little bit of water to it and liberally applied this all over the rot pieces itself. So it created this kind of gross, muddy, green kind of color. So this really works well later on, but I applied that pretty much all over the skin-ish areas. So just to recap, that was 50% Bale Tan Green and 50% dry rust. Applied it all over the gray areas, kind of like the smudging and the pustules. So those are going to sit and they're going to dry to a darkish brownish green color, kind of like that. So now I'm going to be using my Screaming Bell base on the talons, is what I want to call them. It's actually a spirit probe from a Dark Eldar model, but I'm going to be using the Screaming Bell on that. If only I had my brush on me. Here it is. As always, give your paint a shake. I already gave it a shake though beforehand. Grab your brush of your size choosing. Use your palette. Thin it down. However, this one's already pretty thin. And we're good to go. So you might be thinking, Alex, why haven't you painted this model earlier? Well, the reason why is because I am lazy. And this model is pretty big, and I wasn't actually sure what I wanted to do with it. So for a while I was thinking of selling it before it was done. However, I couldn't bring myself to actually do it, because I put so much effort into this model, and I want to finish it. And I figured it was something super cool. The fact it's magnetic, completely custom, and if someone brought this against me, I would consider it to be a Titan, a Revenant Titan, or Renegade Titan, sorry. Not someone calling it just a mix mash whatever to save money. I think this is a pretty cool model. I might be a little bit biased because I did it. However, I think it's pretty awesome. So earlier I forgot to paint, or earlier when I had this model earlier, I forgot to paint the Defiler's plate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that with a little bit of Typhus Corrosion, just to give it a little bit of a difference between the rest of the model. Quick shake on this guy, grab your brush, and make sure you get all the texture at the bottom too. You don't want to grab just paint, you want to grab the actual texture. So I'm just going to liberally apply this on top, and later on I'm going to give it a rust effect. I'm going to be straight up honest with you guys. I'm totally winging how I'm painting this guy as I go, as I'm sure you guys do with a lot of your miniatures when it comes to things you haven't painted before. So hopefully it all turns out in the end. To be honest, I don't really know. I don't know. I totally got it on the wrong spot. If ever you get paint on a spot like this, for example, I don't know if you can see that, just use your good old dandy finger. Get rid of most of it. Now it just looks like I added a shade to there. Everything's fine. I know it's not ideal, but I mean, it happens. I'm just going to fix up this little splotch up here. Nothing a little good Typhus Corrosion can't fix, especially on a model like this, because everything is corroding. So what I'm doing now is on the top pauldrons, carapace, whatever you want to call it, the shoulder pads up here, I'm going to be adding a Rhinox high base. But instead of just using a Rhinox high base like regular, what I'm going to do is I'm going to water it down. I'm going to add it in splotches on here, because later on it'll create kind of like an effect underneath. That way it's not consistent all the way through, because I want it to look worn. I want it to look like it's been through a lot. So Rhinox hide. Boop. Grab some water. I know this is a super ghetto way to use water, but it's what's in front of you. Use your palette. And I'm literally just going to kind of splotch it on in spots. So I don't want it to look consistent all the way through. I want little areas. Because when it dries, There you go. When it dries and I apply my next coat, spoiler alert, it'll be like a goldish color. It'll make it look, and it's a layer paint as well, so it won't show. It'll show a little bit through. A little more paint, and just gently dabble. You're not trying to put a lot of pressure, just dabbing. And if you get a little bit of Rhinox brown on the rest, perfectly fine. Because your model is dirty. It is a Nurgle Chaos Knight that has been around for a while. Papa Nurgle's got a hold of it, so it's decaying. Alright, so now I'm going to paint the shoulder carapace. I'm going to be using Sycorax Bronze, the layer paint. Give it quite a good shake, there we go. And now we're good to go. So don't worry too much if this isn't the most fluent painting you've ever done on it, because I'm going to layer it and make it look really, really rusty afterwards. So make sure you use your palette. This paint here is a little bit thick, so I'm just going to thin it out a pinch. A little bit of water. There you go, just like that. So take my brush and going directly over top. I'm going to do the little splatter method again. I like that method, and it works really well for this kind of model. Just kind of splatter it over. Don't need to get every single part. Showing a little bit of that brown on the bottom is perfectly fine. The brown and black, sorry, on the bottom. Perfectly fine. Because by the time we're done with this model, it will be very, very rusted. Especially this part up here. Now you're thinking that it's a little bit bright, and you are correct. It is quite bright of a bronze color, but we will end up toning that down. Alright, so now we're going 50-50 on Vallejo's dark rust and dry rust. It's going to become kind of like a reddish, brownish, kind of rusty color. That's the best words I can use. Then we're going to apply that back to the carapace. I love that I magnetize this model, especially because it's so big. It definitely does help. So, just applying it all over. Now be careful not to let it puddle or splotch up at all. That wouldn't be good. And try not to get any of those air bubbles, although that's kind of hard sometimes. And just make sure to get underneath and inside as well. Now if you do think this is too red, like I think I do, I will be adding another coat of just dry rust after that, but I'm going to kind of splotch it. It's going to kind of match the theme here. Or maybe I'll use Agrax with the shade. I don't know. I'll see how I feel about it afterwards, but I'm going to splotch some kind of effect to kind of change it up, that way it's not just one wash all the way through. And if you notice, I have not been adding it to the Dark Eldar bits up top as well. Now, I've had this model for probably 2 years at this point. I'm so excited to finally get him painted and done. And I think he's going to look pretty awesome. Boom. Just like so, leave that to dry, and then we'll splotch on the other effects. Alright guys, so now we'll be adding some Typhus Corrosion Splotches to the bronze up top. Same technique we were doing earlier. I just want to make it look a little bit darker before I add a wash, and also with the Typhus Corrosion gives it that kind of texture. So, unclip the arms in this case. Oops, don't drop them like I just did. And just kind of splotch away. in all sorts of random patterns. You don't want to add too much, just a little bit here and a little bit there. Kind of making it look even more worn. There you go. Just like that. You don't want to go too overboard. Alright, so now I'm using an equal part mix of Carbon Crimson, Leviathan Purple Wash, and Agrax Earthshade. So that gives me this really dark, rich, purpley, reddish kind of color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint, well, wash the pustules with it. The kind of dimples inside. This is going to give it a kind of dark color. Don't want to go too overboard with it. I want to just leave it just inside the pustules. Just like that. I don't know if you can see that very well. My lighting's not the greatest right now, because it is early. And just want to do that all over the model on top of the sickly, fleshy color. Now with this model I could stop here. Like after this step I could be done and I would be pretty happy with the turnout of the model. However, I'm going to keep going because I like the model. So I want it to really be a center point to the army if I ever decide to field Nurgle. And just continue that process all on the model. Alright, so as the pustules are drying, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade and some Dry Rust Effect. I'm going to mix them about 50-50, and I'm going to apply them to the shoulder pads. Just kind of re-darken that color. Going about a 50-50. Don't need too much. Get my wash brush. And when you're ready, just go ahead and just put it right on. So this is going to darken and kind of bind together all those colors we've been adding. Make it look more natural and fluent throughout the model. And there you go. And for this one, I'm just going to add it to the top. I'm not going to bother putting it underneath everything. One, because you're probably never going to see it, and two, I kind of want it to look almost like granulated, really, really rusted and taken apart underneath. There you go. Now that that's done, we'll leave that to dry. And I'm just going to apply a little bit right there. Right there too. There you go. We'll leave that guy to dry and then I'll do some detail work. So right now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking my Brassy Brass by Vallejo Air. And I'm going to be applying it to the sword parts up here and a little bit on this. I have no idea what that is. On that. We'll call it that. So don't need a lot. You're going to be grabbing a detail brush as well. Always make sure your paint's nice and thin and use your palette. So careful not to touch that, however, because I just painted that. I just want these sword bits to be a different color than the rest. I want them to kind of stand out. And Brassy Brass is a quite nice color. It is a little bit bright for what I want, so we will be using some shades to darken it down later. But for now, just keep painting. I'm going to get this little bit of chain down here, just the hook on the chain. I want that part to kind of stand out as well. Problem with chaos models is that they're so spiky you don't really want to touch certain areas. Like I was pressing on this hook and realized I was kind of moving it, so I want to kind of avoid breaking the model as I'm trying to paint it, because that would suck. So I'm going to paint the bottom part of this. I have no idea what that is though. So of this thing, just the bottom part. I'm a huge fan of using the edge of my brush to kind of paint the model. The models will kind of paint themselves that way, especially for doing edging and detail work. Doesn't always work the best, however, on most cases it works just fine. If I did have my gold metallic Sharpies, I would be using those right now. However, I don't know where they are, because I probably put them down somewhere and forgot about it. And applying a little bit of gold or brassy brass to that little button looking thing on top. So that way it kind of gives it some detail, makes it stand out a little bit. Just a bit. Don't want it to stand out too much, but just a little bit. Alright, so while that dries, I'm going to be taking some Ushabti bone, and I'm going to be placing it on the skull right there. I completely forgot to hit record earlier. I did do a little bit of edge highlighting on like the bolts here, a little bit along the edges of the talons with the brassy brass, and just a few other little mix match items just to kind of give it like a highlight. Completely forgot to hit record. Oops. But right now, grab your fine detail brush, your Ushabti bone, which I already shook up 30 seconds ago. A little bit on your brush, don't want too much. I'm just going to start coloring over that skull that's right here. Try not to ruin any of my other work I've already done. Now it is very early in the morning for me, so if you... Alright, so I didn't even realize, but my camera died. So last I did is I filled a little bit of Ushabti bone with a layer of Terminata stone over top here. I'm going to be making either an eyeball or a pustule. Not sure which exactly yet. Finished off the skull, painted in whatever that thing is, black. And I think that was about it. All I did. Oh, and I painted some of the teeth back here on the back. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking my red from wherever my red is. So I'm going to be using my corn red air paint, and I'm going to be painting in the whatever you want to call that thing. So I'm going to be painting in that. So this paint is already very thin, so I don't need to thin it down using a fine detail brush. I'm just going to try and paint just inside, which might be a little bit more difficult than it looks. Yeah, it's not that bad for now. So the reason why I chose red is on the opposite of the color wheel from green, and wanted this guy a Christmassy feel for no apparent reason. So with the power of editing, that will be complete. So now I'm going to be taking Mecha Red, and I'm going to be coloring in, painting in, sorry. Excuse me, I have weird hiccups. Painting in these little spots on the Necron pieces as if they were lights. So just one thin layer of Mecha Red on each. Give give that kind of red color, and just make sure you get all of them. Only one. And that one's all covered up. I'm getting this one here too. I know that's not the same, but I want it to be a light. Go. The other one over there, I'm not going to color in. Oh, thought there was so many more of these. I was wrong. So later on I'm going to be coloring these in with a little bit, with another layer more towards the center, kind of give it like a vibrant, more vibrant color towards the middle. And then I think after that I might apply a glaze over top, give it a little bit of a shine. And I thought there was so many more lights than this earlier. Oh, yeah, that's it. Just those.
Well, now we get to use some Agrax Earthshade to fill in the Dark Eldar portions on top of these shoulder pads here. So basically just kind of filling that in, and any other spots I missed with an Earthshade earlier in the process.
Alright, now for the part I'm by far the most worried about, and that I absolutely hate doing, but I think it'll bring the model to kind of like the next level. So, I'm going to make this an eye. So now it's got a few layers of Terminatus stone and Ushabti bone underneath. It's kind of relatively white, kind of a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my undercoat black, give it a shake, fine detail brush, get a nice point on it, and just take a little bit of black, palette twist, and what I want to do is I'm going to make a circle. A circle, I'm going to put it a little bit off to the side. I kind of want the eye to be looking out. So this is not originally meant to be an eye, so it's going to be kind of creepy, kind of off-putting, but that's what Nurgle is. So I'm totally okay with that. So, getting nervous to do this, but I'm just going to go for it. So, start off with a little circle. I need new brushes really badly. And I'm slowly going to work out this circle. So I need to rush it until there's a point where I'm happy with the size and the shape. I hate painting eyes the most. They are fairly tricky. Okay, I want a little bit more to this side. Now the reason why you do a small circle and work the circle out is because it's easier to add paint than it is to take away. Now I'm not too worried about the consistency and like the texture on this. If it gets a little bit of texture, I'm not too worried about that, because not eyes, especially on Nurgle models, are not the most soft. They have texture to them. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger and a little bit more to the side. So I want to be kind of looking where the gun is going. stick right there, but I think I'm okay with that. Check where it looks. Yep, keeping it there. Cool. Let that dry and we'll go on to step 2. Alright, so now that that's dried, I did make it a little bit larger on the iris of the eye with the black, or not the iris, the black of the eye. I just felt it was a little bit small, so now I'm going to be taking my Rhinox hide. Excuse me. Using my palette. It is already pretty thinned down, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be applying it to kind of the all over the eye on the black part, except for the top left, because I want the eye to be looking down. So, lightly apply it. There you go. Just kind of like that. So I kept a little bit of black towards the top side, and all the rest of it is the Rhinox hide brown. So I'm going to leave that to dry. I did leave just a pinch of black around the outline though. Not a lot, just a little bit, just to kind of give it almost like an outline. So I'm going to leave that to dry, and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so now I'm taking a give or take half ratio of Rhinox hide and Euro yellow, a little bit of water to thin it down. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using almost like a crescent shape, excuse me, and I'm going to be applying it to the eyeball portion. Let's move my lamp a little closer so you can probably see a little bit better, and making circle like so, leaving the middle portion the brown color. You obviously want to be using a fine detailed brush at this point. And just slowly applying it. Around like so. There you go, like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, just didn't mean to drop that, I'm going to add a little bit more Euro yellow to the mixture. I'm slowly going to build up the brightness. A little bit more water. And I want the top left side where the black is to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to slowly inch away from that side. Some more water. Thin that out just a little bit more. There we go. And I'm just going to slowly build up that color away from the top left side. There we go. So I'm going to slowly add in a little bit more yellow as we go along. And then soon I'll go straight to Euro yellow. But we'll get there. slowly building up that effect. Now I'm going to, oops, I keep dropping it. Even more yellow to the mixture. So right now it's probably about 80% yellow, just a pinch of Rhinox hide. And I really want to start focusing on just the bottom portion. There you go, just like there. There you go, and see how it slowly graduates from darker to brighter all the way at the bottom. I'm going to use just a pinch of straight Uriel yellow. Just towards the bottom. I really want it to kind of glisten. Brush. There we go, right there. Just a little bit. And there we go. So now that your yellow is done, we're good for a bit and let it dry. Alright, so now that that is a little bit more dry, I took a Uriel yellow and a little bit of my Terminus stone, about a 50-50 I want to say. So I'm basically just making the yellow a little bit whiter. So I'm going to be applying that to the, give me that, to the bottom very most side using my finest detail brush, which is not very fine at the moment. I do need more brushes, I do apologize. And just little dots. Alright, so what I'll be doing now is I'll be taking my Terminus stone, my very fine detail brush, that is not that fine detail for me, because it is old and I need a replacement. So get a very fine tip, and what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be adding 2 little dots to the top left portion of the eyeball. So just 2 little dots. Okay, that was a little too little. Alright, let's try that again. There and there. And I'll be adding 1 to the top side, same side as the pupil itself. Be very careful. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'm just going to kind of fix up that 1 dot in the iris once it dries with a little bit of Abaddon Black. Not to worry. Alright, so now we're taking Corn Red and Screamer Pink. To be doing a like around 50-50-ish mixture together. Don't want very much of either of them. And what I'll be doing is I'm going to start painting some veins. Well, now that I got my 50-50, it is nice and loose. So very carefully, very fine tip on the brush. Just kind of stroke down. Like so. They don't need to be even strokes, you can kind of play with it a little bit. And you don't want to put too many, don't go overboard. Just a few. Like so. Just like so. Alright, so now what I'm doing is I'm taking my Carberg Crimson shade. I'm still going to be using my fine detail brush. Although this is a shade / wash. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this shade, a pinch, a very small amount of the previous color we used for the veins, and we're going to take a generous amount of water. Make sure it's very thin, and what are we doing? I'm going to be taking it and placing it just on the edge where the eye meets the rot. And applying it right there. Because although there's not supposed to be an eye there, there now is. So I gotta kind of make it look like the eye is meant to be there and fits. Also, it's gonna kind of make the eye look irritated. Maybe he's got some pink eye, I don't know. I'm just going to slowly continue that on, getting lighter and lighter.
Oh, hi. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video here of me painting my custom Nurgle Defiler. I'm super happy it's finally done. I've had this model for so long. Also, I hope you guys learned something about drawing and painting the eyes. I know I did. It was probably my second time doing one of those before, and it was actually very, very difficult, but I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. The only thing I would change is probably do like an eye like that kind of style on somewhere where there's supposed to be an eye. It was kind of tricky getting the edge to make it look natural, like it was actually supposed to be there, but luckily I just kind of, it wasn't in the video, but I went back later and I took more Cardboard Crimson and did the edge, then took a green wash Bale Tangerine, and then did a Agriculture shade, so I kind of slowly layered it down and they kind of mixed and went down, so it made it look more natural. But anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to like if you guys liked it. Comment on anything you guys want me to paint next. I've got quite a lot to do. I will be doing that work campaign to take over. I'm just waiting on someone to come and finish it with me, or come and record it with me, because it's no fun watching one person roll dice repeatedly. And I know the tactics and etc. So anyways, that's going to be happening, and I might, don't quote me on it, but I might be making a badass Age of Sigmar board. I'm hoping. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a good one.